Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Tank Talk podcast. We are so happy you're here enjoying the number one aquarium podcast, number one podcast in all of the known universes. Thank you for being here, John. We've got a really, really nice episode. But before we get into that, we do want to say thank you very much to Fritz Aquatics, fritzaquatics.com. They are a channel sponsor of what we do here at the Tank Talk podcast because we absolutely love the things that they provide. Things like this, the Fritzzyme 7 live nitrifying bacteria, best on the market. And if you've got a new tank and you don't have any used filter media and you're looking for a way to get your tank cycled quickly and get fish in right away, check it out. This stuff is awesome, and it is sold on keepfishkeeping.com. So
it is indeed.
Go there if you need to. So today, what are we talking about?
Oh, we're talking about one of my absolute favorite things to talk about with one of my favorite people to talk about this subject with, and that is monster fish keeping. It's what brought me into the hobby, and it's something that I've been absolutely obsessed with for 30 years. And so we are very excited to bring in Rod. I'm just going to say his full name. I don't think he has a problem with that. Rodrigo Rojas from Predatory Fins is going to be our guest today. Talk all about his business, talk about monster fish, and then I'm going to ask him a controversial question at the very end that you might already know when you read the title of this. So it's going to be jam-packed and fun. So I'm excited. And I guess you are too, right, Jason?
Oh, I thought you were just going to bring him in. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to space out on you there. Yeah, I'm excited too. Let's go, man. Get him in here.
I did. I'm sorry. We didn't have a good plan there. But yes, I will bring in the champ himself. Rod, thank you for being willing to do this. You've got a busy schedule. You got your son with you today. You got all kinds of stuff going on. But I'm really thankful that you were still willing to hang out here with us for a little bit.
Thank you for having us. And if I have to go take him to the bathroom, I might have to take a little break here and there.
No, that's fine.
Otherwise, I'm here for you guys.
Now, I'm going to ask you real quick, just before we get into the real substance, I'm going to ask you to tilt your head to the left a little bit so we can show everybody. Either way, it doesn't matter. The championship belt right there from the Fins and Fury event. Rod had the only TKO of the night. I was the commentator for that. It was a lot of fun. Thank you for letting me be involved in that. That was a good time. And, everybody's asking for another one. I don't think we're going to see another one, though, are we?
Thank you for coming and being there. It was definitely a fun night. It was in the plans to do a second one. I don't think we will because everybody got busy and it's not easy. Like, I ended up getting hurt that day and I haven't done any boxing since then. But it was definitely different. And we weren't there promoting violence. We were there. And look how many people got healthier. I lost 30 pounds. Fish lost 30 pounds. So I think it's a great sport, and it was just a way to show our fans that, we can always do something else. Even though we're getting a little white on the beard, it was still fun.
Look at mine, brother. Come on now. And I didn't even fight.
Hey, but you did well. You did well. The commentator team was perfect.
Well, thank you. It was the realization of a lifelong dream for me. So I really do owe you big time. And here you are doing me a favor again by being a guest on our podcast. I appreciate it very much. I want to talk with you about your specialty. I got a chance to visit the space that you're in right now when I was there for Fins and Fury. It was amazing. And it's not even done yet. Your facility is still being set up, but it was a mecca for me. It was amazing. Talk a little bit about your business, what you specialize in, and how people can find your business and all that, and then we can talk about the fun stuff.
Well, I think thank you for the words, but I think that the facility's great. The size is great. It's gonna get to be too small once you start adding all the big tanks in. We definitely linking up with Stingray Biology. We're both partners on Predatory Fins and Stingray Biology. That changed a lot because he opened up my eyes to different types of animals, not just monster fish. We carry a whole discus and angelfish, stuff that to me, it wasn't appealing at first because I was a monster fish keeper. But they're great animals. They're amazing fish, and it's cool to be able to get fish from all over the world. Now, from who we are, before when I started, I had to send money up front. to random people all over the world, and sometimes they're $7,000-8,000 just lost. Like people would just take your money and run. Now, because of how big Predatory Fins got, there's so many companies that want to do work with us. They'll send the fish in front, so we have zero risk.
Wow.
Only freight if the fish unfortunately arrives dead, then we lose the freight, but we don't have to send money up front, which is great. As far as the facility, we've been here for 3 years dealing with the town, but also Kevin is a perfectionist. So I always joke around, say half of that time is the town, half of the time is Page-Eye Kevin, because he takes long to do something, but it comes out perfect. And we're totally the opposite. I'll make it real fast. It's not gonna be perfect, but it'll be up and running. So because this is something that we want to have for a long time, I'm like, here, you do that part. You set up the way you want, because he's got way more knowledge than I do.
When Lisa and I left there that night, we were there till late at night. You kept the place open for us, and I was very thankful for that. When we were on our way back to the hotel, I told Lisa, I said, I love Rod. He's an awesome guy. I love his business. But that dude got lucky with bringing Kevin in there with him, because Kevin knows his stuff. Not that you don't, but Kevin might be at the borderline genius level, and we can't wait to have him on the podcast to talk all about stingrays.
I think he's the type of guy, and the more that you talk to him, you get to like him, right? Because at first he's very like on his own. He's very quiet. He doesn't talk much. But that guy, he thinks about everything. Like if you and I have an idea and we go straight to that idea, he would think in 10 different ways to get to that idea. And sometimes you might take the same path, but he will think, oh no, this doesn't work. This is okay. This is not okay. It'll take longer. That's why it takes longer. The funniest, funniest thing I heard about him was the truck driver that picked up Kevin's tanks in LA, the last batch of tanks to bring it here. When the guy opened that truck, every inch of the truck was filled. Every inch.
Wow.
So there was space to put a finger, like even when he opened the door.
Wow.
And he looked at me, he goes, I never met anybody like your partner before. When I pull up with my semi, he had every measurement written down on a piece of paper, and each tank measurement of the tanks and how they would fit in the truck.
Wow.
And that's why it came out like this. Like you couldn't even, for us to pull anything out, we had to like wiggle stuff out. And I go, have you ever had to deal with somebody like that? He's like, nope. I'm like, do you want to deal with somebody like that again? He's like, nope.
Nope. Yeah,
so
that's good.
It's great for business because he really thinks about everything. I'm more like, let's go, let's do it. I don't think the negative. Let's just get it done. He's the mind, and it's cool because even though he knows a lot of times you just ask me, hey, I'm stuck here. I want to plumb this, but I can go this way. I can go this way. All right, just go this way. Okay. Like he just needs that little extra push to reaffirm himself that that's right,
Nice. Well, and I'm completely obsessed with all of the fish that you have there, but particularly stingrays. And so I'm really looking forward to having him on. But I'm also looking forward to this conversation with you. But today, I want to get in on the monster fish. I saw one fish when I was there with you that I had never seen before. You're going to have to refresh my memory. It was in your, I think it's a 24-foot long tank, that there was about a 4-foot arapaima in there, and there was a large yellow fish that kind of resembles a knife fish. Somebody said something like a barundi or
barramundi.
There you go. Yeah, that was striking. I was like, yep, I gotta have that on my list of dream fish to have someday. How big do those get?
They get big. They can get pretty big. They're actually a saltwater fish, just like a tarpon, but they can live in freshwater.
Oh, that's probably why I never heard of them. So, yeah, that fish was really cool. And Lucas Bretz and I were standing there. And as a matter of fact, Lisa took a picture of him and I standing there, and she posted it to Instagram. I think we stood there for like 15 minutes and we didn't say a word. We just looked at the tank. It was just absolutely amazing. I love it. But aside from all of that, to start from the beginning with monster fish, I want to explain, what a monster fish is, but before we get to that, I want to know what got you into monster fish. What started all that for you?
Well, I don't know if you know, I'm from Brazil,
Mm-hmm.
and where I'm from, it's like the Key West. So I lived on the beach my whole life. And I, since as a kid, I always enjoyed like fish. Like sometimes where we lived, the low tide would come in, and you have this whole reef outside of the water, and a lot of times fish would get stuck. And since as a kid, as let's say Ryan's age, I would go in there and move the fish, out of the little holes that they would get stuck.
Nice.
Uh, so I always enjoyed it. I had tanks my whole life with my dad, and as life gets you gets older, life gets busier. We opened a moving company, and I ended up getting a 125 gallons. So that was my tank back, like getting back into the hobby. And when I looked for fish, nobody was selling big fish, nobody at all, because now I understand obviously the cost of the freight, and it's so much easier to sell smaller fish than a large fish. Uh, I was like, man, like I want a big tigrinas, I want big this, I want big that, just to put in that tank. And I realized that tank was too small. So I ended up getting a bigger tank. I think it was a 400 gallons, and I put it in the office. And at the time, um, Lisa, my wife's name is Lisa as well. We started the company by ourselves, and we ended up growing to the point where we had 4 warehouses, 8 trucks, 40 employees, and it was great. But we were so busy that there was no point to. We didn't want to buy a house, and there was no point to even go to an apartment. So I made an apartment in the warehouse. For me, it was great. For her, at the time, obviously with kids now it would be difficult. But at the time, she was like, "All right, let's do it." So we were just focused on working, and I started thinking like, if I import these fish, they'd probably be a lot cheaper. So it was just a thought that I started having, and I went with a friend of mine when I had time. This is how everything really started. He took me out fishing in Florida. You have night fish there, right? I don't know how they got there, but they're from probably a little bit below West Palm all the way to Fort Lauderdale. We can catch night fish. And I went out with my friend Brandon, which is a really good friend of mine, and I caught one that was probably like 28 inches. And you don't see stuff like that. All the
Right.
stores, little ones. So I put it in the tub, got in the tank. I was so happy. I'm like, this is amazing. It's such a cool fish. And then I had somebody come in to look for storage space. The guy literally walked in front of the tank, and he's like, "That's my favorite fish. I want to buy you a fish." I'm like, "Nope, mm-mm." I had that fish. It was a baby. I named it. I can't sell it. Like all the things we usually say. And the guy's like, "Dude, I'll give you $400 right now for that fish."
Hello.
I literally had just caught it, so I'm like, that's like moving a piano. I don't have to pay the guys anything. All right, I'll give it to you. So I gave him a tub, got the fish, and my wife came up to me. She's like, "Did he really pay you $400 for that fish?" I'm like, "Yeah, but no, right? Like we're crazy. Like fish keepers are crazy." So that stuck in my mind. I'm like, that was crazy. Like $400 for night fish. Okay. So then one day I went out fishing again. I caught 2 peacock bass. At the time, I didn't know you're not allowed to do that because in Florida they're game fish, so you're not
Mm-hmm.
allowed to sell them. You can eat them. You can do different things with them, but you're not allowed to sell them. I didn't know, so I got 2 of them, put on eBay, $200 each. Not even a few hours later, somebody knocked on the door. I want to buy both of them. I'm like,
Oh.
you can just catch them yourself. I don't have any time for that. Just boom. So I'm like, 3 fish, $800. Fish that I caught here. Now something's not right. So then that's when I start looking into importing. Um, and I speak Spanish, so I start, typing in Spanish to Peru, Colombia, trying to find people in Brazil, and then Thailand. I would use a Google Translator because I didn't have Kevin.
Mm.
So I was all over the world, and you send money. So what I was doing basically is just trying to get my own fish. I didn't care about selling fish. I wanted to get my own, so my wife is not pissed off because they're not super expensive, and I sold some, so I cover myself, right? And that's how it started. So I would import, and you can't only import one box. You have to import maybe 10, $15 to make it worth the freight and the import costs. So I would keep what I want and sell the rest. So I started doing it more often. And I ended up getting a 2,000-gallon tank inside of the moving company.
Nice.
That was pretty crazy. And it turned into a business. And next year, I had half of the warehouse that I had for moving turned into fish. And then next thing you know, the business just took off from there. And I told Lisa, I said, look, I can't do both. I was losing my mind, like trying to do estimates and pick up fish at the airport and go back to the moving company. And then, it was too much. So I said, look, you don't like being a secretary anyways. Let's just give the moving company to my parents and get out. Let's just jump into the fish full on and forget the moving company. And she was like, okay. She
Wow.
could have been, I want to sell it. I want to do this. She could have been that type of person, but she was like, okay, I don't have to answer the phone anymore. No problem. So my parents are still running. They do moves all over the U.S. It's great because we were able to they help us open it. When we first opened, they gave us money to open up. So to give the whole company back to them was like a dream. And then we stayed for one on the fish, and it just took off from there. But I think I got very lucky because all the YouTubers are growing at the same time in Florida.
Yeah.
Talking about Paul, Zach, everybody's growing at the same time, and there was nothing like what I had. And I was just starting. I just had a swimming pool with big fish in it, So I think that was where the trend came from. Like, oh, you can do that? I didn't know you could do that, and it just took off from that. But them coming to the shop and filming every day, it benefited us. They made their money, they got their video, they blew up their channel, but also benefited us.
Sure.
So Rod, I got a question for you. We're talking about these monster fish, and we're going to get into specifics here in a second, different types. But if someone was like, hey, I'm super interested in keeping monster fish, how big of a fish is that? Like when you talk about monster fish and maybe what somebody else thinks in their head, like for me, biggest fish I've ever kept was an 18.5-inch Nile tilapia. That to me was a monster fish. But what are we talking about, like in terms of minimum size?
It depends on who I talk to. You know what I mean? Like a lot of times, people they'll come here and they'll ask like, "Oh, how big does this?" Yeah, they have no idea. And there's a lot of stores that would sell like Pacu and not tell them the truth, or even a red tail hybrid, and they have no idea how big those catfish will get. I had a customer. He drove 6.5 hours to drop off a fish for us to rescue. To me, that's like true love. I don't even know if I would do that to a fish. He dropped off a fish that he had for 10 years. He had an iridescent shark in the 90 gallons for 10 years.
Wow.
The fish was only that big, So he was so happy. He's like, oh, did I do good? I said, you did great. The fish is healthy, but it should have been like 10 times bigger. You know what I mean? He had no idea. He thought that was the max size, because he's like, oh, they never told me. So what we do is we try to teach and educate. And also, like, if people buy a fish from us or from any other store, if it got too big for them, they can come here, trade it for something smaller, or if we have to rescue, we'll rescue and send it to somebody that we know. That's not a problem. So we don't want to let people get stuck with the fish as well and hurt the fish. As far as like what size is big and small, to me 18 inches is like small, right? Because the stuff that I keep. But we try to guide them in a way where they know how big these animals are going to be. So majority of people I talk to, they already watched the videos. They already seen a 7-foot arapaima. I think the questions that I get the most is how fast, how much time do I have until the animal gets to that size? So we try to tell them, like, if you already don't have something set up, focus on something that will stay smaller. I had a son that came here the other day, and he was great. It was his son's birthday, and he wanted to just make his son happy. His son wanted an arapaima, but he only had a 75-gallon tank.
Oh,
you know, so I told him, I said, look, that fish is not going to last in there for much longer. What I can do for you, if you want, take it and then bring it back. Just so your son can enjoy it, and then after it gets too big for that size tank, because you're not going to get it bigger, just bring it back. And we did. So we'll try to do like that to help too, because I feel bad. Like these kids, like my son, he knows every fish. He knows what a pleco is, arapaima, arowana. He knows everything. So he gets to experience that here because he's here. But other kids, they're getting into the hobby. They love fish, and majority of them is a red tail because they think it's like a dog.
Right.
I think there's a lot of parents that try to fulfill that for their kids without knowing what they're getting into. So that knowledge is very important.
I think naturally, the number one challenge that people are going to find with monster fish is the fish get bigger than they expected. I'm going to throw you a curveball here.
Hmm.
What is the biggest challenge that fish keepers have to monster fish that's not, oh, this fish gets so much bigger than I thought it was going to get? You know, tank size is always going to be an issue. And that's going to probably be the predominant thing that we talk about today. But other than tank size is not enough, what's the biggest challenge that you find people encounter with these?
Knowing what fish to not put together, compatibility. I hope I said that right.
Yeah, it was perfect.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Because a lot of times I have three languages in my head, so sometimes I'll say something wrong. My wife loves it. Um, so I think that would be the main thing. Because a lot of times, let's say people will buy an alligator gar, thinking, "Oh, it's so cool," and they'll put an arowana that's the same size, but the alligator gar is going to bite the arowana.
Right.
You know, so it's we learn from happening here, and we watching fish get together. But unfortunately, if they don't watch the videos and they don't ask questions, they're not gonna know until it happens to them. So I think that besides having the tank space, is definitely compatibility. The main problem.
Well, speaking of compatibility, you know, I got these three Oscars behind me here. Uh, and I have, you don't know about this, I have video evidence of me and you at your shop looking at some lemon Oscars, true lemons, and you saying on video, I'm going to give you one of those as a gift. I've got it on video.
You got to remind me.
No, I'm not that guy. But see, and that's, I'm being silly when I say that. You did say that, but I'm not going to hold you to it because
Oh,
I'm.
funny, hold you off real quick. I had a customer, or I don't even know if he's a customer, call and he wanted to buy it for you.
Oh no,
Yes,
really?
yes,
Oh
yes.
wow.
I think it was a true lemon. It wasn't albino. It was a true lemon. He said that you were here and you loved it, and they wanted to buy it for you. And I said I don't have it anymore. Um, but no, I have no problem giving it to you.
Oh, I know you wouldn't, and but I was just jerking you around there. That means a lot that somebody wanted to do that for me. That's incredible. But here's the thing, and this is what brings up my next question. I've got three in here now, the tiger, an albino tiger, and a red, and they're getting along. They're in there with three bikers and a big pleco. It's all peaceful. Nobody bothers anybody. My fear is if I was to put in an outsider, we know Oscars generally are going to get along together, but they may not. And so what would your advice be there? Like, I got three Oscars that I've had for 5 years, bought them. They were 2 inches long. Well, the red that I got, he was an adult. He was basically, I bought him like a year later and he was already the same size as the other two. So he mixed in really well. But what would your advice be to somebody that has an established tank that doesn't have any issues that wants to put in another fish that just to add something to the tank?
Number one, quarantine tank. It's just as important as anything else. If you can get a quarantine tank, even buying fish from us, because we do medicate, we do quarantine, we do make sure that the fish are healthy, but they still go through a very stressful process of getting shipped.
Right.
So let's say there might be nothing wrong with that fish, but he's so weak, and the other fish will sense that, and it'll go after that fish. So next you know, it's dead the next day, and you have no idea why. And there's no markings, just the other fish bumping into it all night long.
Right.
It's killed it. So that is another issue right there. Um, I'm trying to remember. I had another something else in my head.
You're you're
Sometimes
too young. You're too young for that.
I got punched too many times that day. What was it? Sometimes people, depending on the fish as well. So let's say you have wild discus, and they want to get discus that were bred in Asia. A lot of times things can happen.
Right.
I've seen when I was in Florida, I had a whole tank set up for angelfish. I must have had like 200 or 300 angelfish, and I brought in angelfish from a different country, and I medicated them, and I take care of it, and then I put them in a tank. It wiped out the entire tank. So sometimes things like that happen. Now, I talking to Kevin, you understand. There's a lot in fish that we have no idea about. They have
Right.
viruses like us. Some fish are stronger than others. Like a lot of times we have customers that will call and say, "Hey, I have my fish for 7, 8 years. and your fish, I had it for 3 days and they died. Why is that? When's the last time you did a water change? Oh, 3 months ago. Well, your pH is probably really low. Your fish are used to it, and the type of fish you have are probably not so sensitive. Now you added this fish that it was in perfect pristine water here. You know, it happens. It happens a lot. So I think acclimating is another issue. When we talk about issues with majority of we have to deal with customers, I think it's tank space, compatibility, and acclimation. Not knowing what to treat them with. It's tough. A lot of times I get calls from people that just bought fish from other stores, and I don't want to be the douchebag like, hey, you didn't buy it here, call somebody else. Go call who you got it from. So I do my best to help, but obviously we have to prioritize our customers.
Right. Yeah,
We,
you're a
we
better businessman than me, because I'd be like, call them.
Yeah, I mean, I trust me. There's times where I wanted to, but then also like because of social media, I feel bad because a lot of times they feel like they know us, right? I mean, I'm sure you deal with
Oh
that
yeah.
with you. Um, I learned myself, after 6 o'clock, don't answer the phone. Don't answer the phone. And when I was in Florida, we didn't have a secretary, and it was like 11 o'clock at night. And sometimes, guys would just sit on the toilet, we're on the phone, just looking for stuff. The phone rings. And I answered the phone, and it was probably the one call that I regret in my entire life. And this guy literally sounded like this. Hey there, can you help me? And I'm like, oh shit, he's a slow talker, so this is gonna take forever. And he basically said that he bought two sturgeons from someone,
Oh boy.
and and he wanted to know why they died. So I'm like, what? Like that's nothing to do with me. Like, why am I talking to this guy? So I just kept talking to him. Finally, when I realized it was 30 minutes into the conversation, I was like, dude, listen, these were babies. So just like human babies, if you don't take care of them every day, all day long, they're probably going to die. You probably didn't feed them enough. He goes, how, I'm trying to imitate his voice and I can't even do it. He's like, how many times a day do they need to eat? Like, but very, very slow. And I'm like, I don't know, like 4 or 5 times a day. He goes, how long can you stay without food? I'm like, listen, you mother, I just went off. At that point, you wasted my whole 30 minutes and now you can ask me how long I stay without food, like. So I said, I save his number as annoying MF. Do not answer ever again. If you go through our office phone here, you might see a lot of those
Oh, that's
those
funny.
types. Yes.
Unfortunately, people earn that badge sometimes, and I mean, I'm a retail businessman myself, and I know, but you know, I've been
You
doing it
can't
a long time too. So
you can't make everybody happy, you
right.
know. Um, just recent, somebody wrote us a bad review on Facebook, and I thought it was funny. Never dealt with the guy. Don't even know who he is. I saw that we have similar friends, like in mutual friends. Um, and he wrote a review saying they don't care about the animals, they selfish to anybody, blah 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 blah. So I said, okay, freedom of speech. You can say whatever you want to say. Me, like I was raised different. If my father knew that I did that to a business for no reason, he would
Yeah.
he would come to me as a man and talk to me. So I messaged the guy on Facebook. I said, hey, just out of curiosity, like, did you feel better about yourself to do that? He's like, oh, 100%, blah blah blah. I said, okay, no problem. Just remember what you're saying, so one day when we meet, you can say it again.
Oh.
And that was me, being young again, and trying to. I'm like, oh God, why'd I say that? And he's like, oh, I'm not shy. I said, there's no need to be shy. Just when I'm see, we have a lot of mutual friends, so when we do meet in person, just remember what you said, you know. But
And
it
then
was basically,
include that clip of Malik hitting the canvas. But anyway.
yeah, right. But it was something so ridiculous. This guy bought somebody that bought a 16-foot tank for a shark. This dude, I held the shark for him for more than 6 months. I didn't charge extra for it. I just wanted to make sure that he had the proper setup for a shark. 16-foot tank by I think 6 or 7 feet deep. It's plenty of space for one shark, right? And the guy got so happy, he went on all single Facebook groups, posted about the shark. He's doing amazing. He was eating the same day. This guy got pissed off at him, saying, "You don't have the proper setup. It should be in a round tank."
Oh boy.
And just because of that, he came after me. You know, like saying, "Oh, you didn't even check if he's got." I'm like, dude, the guy got a 16-foot tank with rounded edges. You don't need to be in a round tank as long as the edges are not square, so the shark hit and stays. It's plenty of space. But to each his own. Everybody thinks things different. I just thought it was like you go out. It's like me. I'm gonna go to Ferrari and write a bad review because I can't afford it, or it's like doesn't make sense.
Or because you prefer Lamborghinis.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like it to me. It's like you're not really being a man. Like there's no man like we used to be in back in the day. Things are
Right.
very different. Everybody can say whatever they want to say because there's no consequences.
Well, and I'm glad you bring all of that up, because one of the things that so many people say on social media, every time I've ever done a video about this tank or monster fish in general, people bring up the retailers should like there should be rules, and it's the retailer's responsibility, and they should question the customer. What are you putting this in? And if they're not putting them in the right size tank, then you shouldn't sell it to them. And I'm I kind of agree with that, but then I'm also like, hey, retailers need to stay in business. They need to make money, and so I understand both sides of it. But what is the what is your approach to a customer that emails and says, I want a sturgeon that's going to get 8 feet long?
A lot of times we don't get emails about it, right? If we do, we try to obviously teach and educate and guide them in the right directions. A lot of times people just buy it online. And let's say if we got next Monday, I have over 300 boxes to pack. So let's say I take all my time and separate all the monster fish, tiger fish, arapaima, red tails, call all these people. Everybody can lie. There's no way for me to be 100%. Oh, no, they have a pond, check mark. Like, it's impossible, right? And I don't think that this fish should not be in the hobby. I think it's not for everyone. But like I said, I think I mentioned this to you before. We sell to zoos and aquariums all over the world. Like one time we had Dubai Zoo ask us for 6-foot arapaimas, right?
Wow.
If we don't have these animals on our website, companies like that don't know that we can sell them, don't know that we sell them. I have customers that we spend $500,000 on a few fish that
Wow.
they want, big. So those are the customers that we got for. But I can't help if someone goes on a website and buys an arapaima and they only have a 100-gallon tank. There's nothing I can do. These people should be responsible for their own actions. Just like anything else in life. Like I have a job that I get paid $12 an hour, but I want to make 10 kids. Who's going to help me with my kids? What, you're going to blame somebody else? No, you made the kids. Same thing with buying an arapaima. You went and then you purchased knowing how big that animal gets. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment. I want a lion. Remember I told you this? Can I
Yep.
have a lion? I'm sure if I really wanted to, I could get a cub. Probably now illegally, but I could get it. Why would I do that? So I feel like with fish, it has that green line where people are, oh, I can get away with it for a few months, and if it dies, it dies. And it's not the right way to think. But there's a lot of people like that. They'll do it to dogs. They'll do it to birds. They'll do it to reptiles. Um, but I feel like fish, it's more like, oh, let's blame who's supplying the fish. Let's not blame who's buying the fish. No, I think everybody should be responsible for their own actions. We can try, teach, and educate, but there's only so much we could do. And sometimes I even have fun with people. They're like, "Oh, because of you, Ohio Fish Rescue said you love them, then thank me because they exist because of us. They exist because of everybody selling the same fish. You know what I mean? Otherwise, they would be what would they be rescuing? Cichlids,
Right.
African cichlids.
So, Rod,
Uh,
I got a question for you because it's come up a number of times. I'm curious because I'm not a monster fish guy. Like I said, 18 inches is long as big a fish I've ever kept. If you had somebody who was like, hey, I really want to get larger fish above 18 inches, 2 feet, 3 feet, what do you think is the minimum tank size realistically that somebody should have long term for some of these bigger fish, recognizing the largest of them? I mean, there's a big difference, but what are you thinking in terms of dimensions, volume, that kind of thing?
so I always try to tell people if you can go bigger, go. The bigger, the better, right? Um, if you're looking for, let's say, not airpineless, arowanas, peacock bass, some species of catfish, 500 to 1,000 gallons at least, especially if you want more than one. I
And is
always
that
tell people,
pretty much like a 10-foot, 12-foot tank?
yeah, or 8,
Okay.
deeper. I'll say 8 to 12, 8 to 10 feet. And a lot of people do have that in the garage. I've had a customer here that I went and took a rescue. I ended up buying his fish. He had a swimming pool in his garage with a 4-foot ripsaw, a 4-foot red tail, and a 3-foot tarpon.
Ooh.
And the only reason why he was getting rid of it so he could start over. So I think that, again, you have to be responsible for what you do. Just because he's a fish and then they can live in a smaller tank for a little bit doesn't mean it's the right thing to do, right? It's like buying a big dog and leaving it in a cage, and when you work all day, what's the point of that? But again, everybody wants to point to the stores. Oh, they shouldn't sell pacu. No, I think it's wrong. I had a guy in Hawaii that would buy every single pacu that we had, because in Hawaii they don't have enough land. So instead of doing pork ribs or cow ribs, they'll do pacu ribs because they're
Whoa.
much easier to raise in the water, right? So these fish are farm raised for food. So what we did was we import it and we ship it for food. So now if I don't sell pacus, then I can't supply this guy, but I can also stop someone from going online and buying it. We can do our best to literally teach and guide people the right way. But I feel like a lot of people don't care, right? It's like when I was in Florida. Florida is very restricted. That's why we left. I literally had people come up to the shop. Hey, can you order me 1,000 red tails? For what?
What?
Oh, I want to let go of my local pond. Your local pond, like, is it your private pond? No, no, no. It's where I live in a complex. I don't want to charge people to go there and fish. Yeah, I'm like, you're talking to the wrong guy, bro. You gotta go somewhere else. I'm not gonna do that for you. And just people don't care. They want to do it just because now, hey, look, that's why you see all these catfish being caught in Florida. It's not because people bought it. Oh, it got too big and they released it. No, people doing it on purpose. You know,
Wow.
so those are just bad people, just like drugs, right? Good people stay away from it. Bad people go and sell it. Like, same thing. So you can't go and point. Oh, I'm gonna point Global because they do Predatory Fins, Jason's Plecos, all these guys because they're no. You can't do that. You have to point the finger to who's doing the wrong thing, right? If I have zoos that are willing to buy arapaima of 5-6 feet, what? So I shouldn't have arapaima for sale because some people might buy it.
So
That's
with these fish, you mentioned 500, 800-gallon aquarium, and we're used to seeing like in the typical aquarium trade, hey, your filtration is going to be 4 or 5 times turnover every hour. What kind of filtration would have to be with these monster fish in a 500, 800-gallon aquarium? What kind of water are we pushing through per hour?
Well, it depends on your filtration, right? I see a lot of the new generation. They're going for sumps. They're going for the Ultimas that we use. The Movo Media. People are doing things different these days. Like when I started, it was just like a little sump and maybe a canister. But I feel like through the videos, even a lot of people I talk to, they do it custom made themselves. So today you can really have a really badass filtration system made out of garbage cans,
Hmm.
and the fish would live.
Yeah.
Like, just an example, the guy that I took his big fish out of this pond, he had 4 garbage cans full of media, and the last one was filter pads, and the water was amazing. The fish are amazing. There's nothing wrong with these fish. So I think that as time goes on and more videos come from overseas as well, because that's the difference between I think Asia and us. For example, Asia would spend so much money on filtration and less money on the fish, right? I think here we do a little bit different. We spend more money on the fish and then we push the filtration to the side. And that's just as important because one day your bioload's not going to handle it. Next thing you know, you lose all your animals.
Well, and when we're talking about that filtration, no, regardless of what filtration type it is, How many times an hour do we want to be turning that over for these big monsters? Like 4 times an hour, three, you know what I mean? Like if it's a 1,000 gallon tank, you want it turning over 4,000 gallons an hour or?
So I think every tank is different. You know, if you have, um, let's say like the tanks that we're going to do here, we have a 40-foot tank coming in. We're going to do a drip system. So we don't need to have that much turnover. If you have plants that are helping you filter, like Ohio Fish Rescue does, you don't need that much turnover. So I think like every system is different. If you're just strictly counting on your filtration, I mean, one sump or one canister, you have to really see your bio load to be able to figure out your turnaround, right? But ideally, I would say 5-6 times an hour if you can move the entire water through the system. But again,
Okay.
if you have one fish in there, you don't need all that. If you're adding more fish, you might need more. So every tank is different.
How in the world are you going to filter a 40-foot long tank?
That's not even our concern. How are we going to unload it
Oh,
and put it?
is this something that, because I saw the one that was in pieces when I was there that was, looked
I
like a
sold
swimming pool.
I sold that one, and the person that bought it for his quarantine tank.
What? What does he own, Jurassic Park or something? Good Lord.
He's up there.
Oh, my. All
So
right. So,
we started manufacturing our own tanks overseas. So we have a 40-foot tank coming in for the monster fish. It's 40 by 10 by 5 tall. Same size as the fiberglass, but it's
okay.
all acrylic. And then we have a shark tank coming in that is 30 by 7 by 4 with rounded corners.
Ooh. All right,
So
so here's my big question. A couple of weeks ago, Jason and I did an episode of the podcast where we talked about money is no option, not no issue. We can fantasize for a little bit and put together our dream tank. Mine was 24 by 8 by 8. Now, when I bought these Oscars, they were 2 inches in size. I like watching them grow. But that's a bit ridiculous. If I'm going to have a 24-foot tank, I'm going to want to get a fish that would be comparable in size to the Arapaima that you had in your big tank. I don't know if you still have it there. It was probably like 4 feet. And I'm not going to twist this around. One of the main purposes for a 24-foot tank for me would be for an Arapaima and several silver arowanas. You back?
yeah,
Okay.
sorry, people keep calling. Sorry.
No problem. But my question is, what kind of money would that set me back for a 4-foot Arapaima? Not me, John, the friend, the YouTuber. It's just regular question, like regular customer emails wanting a 4-foot Arapaima.
Okay, so it depends of like the quality, right? When we brought the ones that we have here, we asked the supplier for selected grade, meaning with more red scales that look nicer, not just any that came in the net. So we paid more money for them. A 4-foot Arapaima, it would have to be sold around $3,500 for
That's a
us to
lot of
do a
money, but that's
market.
not as much as I thought it would be. Okay.
Yeah, if you're talking about if you go over 4, like 5, 6, now the money goes way higher.
Okay. Now, you're in Amityville, North Carolina. New York, excuse me. I'm in North Carolina. How do we get that fish from the Amityville Horror House all the way down here?
Air cargo.
A
Air
4-foot
cargo.
fish?
Yeah, we'll have to make a special box. Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
I just shipped a 24-inch shark that needs a lot more space than the Arapaima because they're always swimming, and the box was 4 by 3 by 3.
Wow. What does that cost to ship?
That one was 250.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay. This isn't as bad as I thought. That's
no, but
manageable.
let's say a lot of airlines there's a certain weight limit. So if it was like something bigger, like a pacu, they require a lot more water. Arapaimas, believe it or not, as long as you have enough water to cover them and enough water that they float, they're not like laying on the floor because they have to bring their head up to breathe, right? As long as you have that water, then they'll be fine. The main concern with Arapaimas is the temperature. You have to make sure that the temperature is warm, because if they breathe cold air, they will die.
Okay. So I've made that drive. I've been to your place. I know it's about 9 hours from me. So if I was to, and I'm fantasizing here, Rod, I can't wait to come to your shop again, but if I come to buy a 4-foot arapaima because I'm spending $3,500 on a fish, I want to see that fish with my own eyes before I buy it, and I show up pulling a trailer because I'm going to bring this fish home with me, what do I need to have on that trailer to bring that fish home with me? You're just going to put it in a bag and I'm going to carry it out, or what?
I wouldn't do it on a trailer. I would do it on like a little box truck if you're going to drive it.
Well, I own a trailer, so I guess, okay, but I'll rent a truck. It's no problem. Money's no object.
If it's an enclosed trailer, I'll feel much better. But they have these things that we actually bought a few. It's like water tubs. They're very thick with insulation, and they have a lid. I don't know if fishermen around here use it to like bait, for example, to keep the bait cold or frozen. And we bought a couple of them. They're great to transport animals. We sold a bunch of large fish to a zoo, and we had a semi truck come here and pick it up. And we got these giant bags that we could go inside. So we put the bag in the containers, and then we fill up enough water for the animal, and then the rest was just oxygen. So that's the main thing. As long as they don't run out of oxygen, and it doesn't get too hot or too cold, the fish will be fine.
I would feel like I would like that more than shipping it. I mean, I ship live things all the time, so I know it's effective, but for something like that I'm paying that kind of money for, I'd rather be able to pull over on the side of the road every couple hours and take a peek back there, make sure everything's looking okay. You know what I mean? Plus, Lisa has to stop every couple hours to pee anyway, so be able to look at the fish and make sure everything's okay. I feel like that would be, but most people I would imagine are not buying fish that require that kind of stuff. What is the average size fish that you're selling there? I mean, I saw a lot of them, but
So the fish that we rescue, we don't sell, right? We find someone to give it away to. A lot of times I have friends that have ponds, and we'll find a good home for the fish. Now, we sell a lot of small and large fish. It's all types of clients. I had one client that spent 50 grand on 6 fish, and they were albino Chinese perch, big. They were big. They were like 15, 16 inches. We bought a juice for him, and we shipped air cargo, and he never said anything. So I was like, oh crap, like, did they arrive good? You know, they arrived bad. Like, they didn't say anything. So I call him. He wasn't even home to receive it. He was in Canada fishing, and he's like, oh, my guys took the box and dumped them in my lake.
oh Lord.
But that's his own lake, you know? And it's like, wow, like, you didn't even look at the fish. You're probably never going to see them again. Even Kevin was like, if we were bad people, we could have put any fish in a box. Nobody would know the difference.
Put a bunch of bluegill in there.
Carp.
Yeah. It was just like, some people like that, but it's rare to find a customer like that. Majority of people, they request like a video of the fish so they can choose. And if it's something that they're paying a lot of money for, obviously I'll do that, no problem. So let's say if I have 2 tigrinas, can I look at the video? I don't choose one, no problem. I'll send you a video. But if we're selling like tiny little angelfish and they want to sit there and try to pick on the camera, it's like, it's impossible to do that.
Yeah, that's like picking out feeder fish.
Yeah, we try to help as much as we can. But I say at this point we have all types of customers, from small fish to big fish, angelfish, discus, not just monster fish. Like the last 2 weeks we were able to ship because of the holidays and the storm. So we have over 300 boxes there being held back. And I know the day that we start packing those boxes, it's just a variety of fish. It's not just like, oh, it's all red tails or all, no. It's just all a mix of fish.
We're in the same boat with plants and snails, and we're going to be shipping all those out on Monday too because of what's going on the last 3 weeks. So I feel you. I understand it. I don't think my day is going to be as busy as yours, but I think Jason has the next question.
Yeah, Ron, I got a question for you. For people who are, again, newer to monster fish, if you could pick, what are your 3 monster fish that are the most personable? They're like the best fish for people to get into if they've got that 500 to 800 gallon tank, like the 3 coolest ones that have the best personality.
That can go together?
They don't have to go together. No.
Okay. Big flowerhorns have a lot of personality, um, but they're very aggressive. So I would stick to like peacock bass. They'll come up to the tank every time you're feeding them. You can literally hand feed them. Arowana, or like a silver arowana, even a silver or a black. I wouldn't go for, or even a Jardini. I wouldn't go for an African arowana. They're not. If you're talking about personality, they wouldn't really come up to you. They're just more on their own. And what other fish?
Datnoids.
That yeah, I was thinking that noise, but they're also like, it depends on the datnoid because some of them they hide, right? And I always tell people this: every fish is different. They all have different personality. They could be the same breed. They could be the same breed, and they have different personalities, just like us. So you can buy a datnoid that's outgoing and flying all over the tank, and you can buy one that's just gonna sit there and not move around. You know. So
Now,
so that's a good question right there. So for example, if we were picking to ship, obviously we're not gonna pick the one that's just sitting there.
right.
You know what I mean? We're gonna go
Yeah.
for the more active one because chances are that fish is gonna arrive in better condition than the other one.
Are there any fish in particular that you would say, hold up, you got to have a ton of experience? This fish is actually dangerous. Like you got to be careful. You got to know what you're doing.
The electric eel, that's the
That's a
fish.
good one.
It's like if you have kids and stuff, you don't want them touching it. Me personally, I hate getting shocked. So if I had one, I wouldn't even get close to it. Um, Stingrays, you got to be careful. I got poked by a baby stingray and it hurts. Um, and when I was helping Kevin move all the stingrays in LA, we were clipping their barbs, and some of them was longer than a finger, and they were so thick that once you clip, they just fly out. And if you actually went to his old warehouse, you would look at the ceiling and you see like barbs stuck to the ceiling just from us clipping the tails of the stingrays. So I would say stingray. Uh, those are the main ones. I think monster fish like monster, like arapaima. You just got to be careful. You don't want to put your hand in their mouth because when they bite, it's like say grab two rocks and just go like this.
Mm.
That's basically what they do. So like a lot of times, like if I find a dead fish in a tank when the tank they have arapaimas, a lot of times they just do that poof sound right next to the fish, and it mess up to the equilibrium. So next thing you know, the fish is upside down, and you don't even know why. I had my arapaimas in Florida killed 3-foot bass just by doing that right next to the bass.
Wow, I didn't even realize they did that.
Hmm.
So here's my $1 million question for you, and then I want to get into the controversial one.
Okay.
This tank behind me, 8 feet by 3 feet by 2 feet. 3 bikers. It's a Enlicari, a Lapradi, and an Ornate. 3 Oscars and a Pleco. What would you add?
What would I add?
Yeah, you can't see anything in the tank right now, but well, I guess you can because you see more of it than the viewers see.
Still look like you have a lot of space in there. You said 8
There's
foot.
plenty of space.
Yeah, I would add an arowana so you can swim around the top there, back and forth. Probably a bass, and depending on your filtration, another fish or so. But I wouldn't go much more because these fish all get big.
Right. I got all the filtration. I've got 2 CJ Whale 500 canisters on there and a sump. So filtration's a non-issue. But I will tell you, I bought 3 silver arowanas when I originally set this tank up. And the 2 Oscars, the 2 Tigers. Didn't have the bikers yet. And the Oscars killed one of the arowanas. And then another one of them jumped out. And then the third one, I don't even remember why the third one died. So I have tried arowanas in there. And it scares me a little bit because arowanas, you don't know this about me, but arowanas are what got me into this hobby.
People into the hobby.
Yeah,
Because
I mean, they're so fascinating, and I can't get enough of them. So I love the idea, but would you suggest maybe I get one that's got some serious size to it to add in there with those that are already in there?
Yeah, I would get one around 14 to 16 inches to put it in there. And So let's say that's what we're talking about quarantine, right? If you had one and he came in from a farther distance, it would be nice to put him in a quarantine tank, let him get his energy back up, and before putting in a tank. Also arowanas, for example, it's better to move them with the bag. If you move them with the net, they'll get all shredded, and then the other
Oh
fish,
yeah.
the blood, you might not see blood, but they'll smell that, and then they'll go after. So what do we do here at the store too? And I try to tell a lot of people that ideally, especially dealing with monster fish, have a nightlight on. Doesn't have to be direct on top of the tank. It could be just a room light. But as long as these fish can see their surroundings, they won't get spooked and jump out.
Huh. That's
In
interesting.
Florida, in Florida, I didn't have anything protecting the fish from jumping out of the big tank. I just left the lights, the night lights on the ceiling. So a majority of times, arowanas, what the reason why they jump out is one to catch food. The second one is if they feel any movement next to them, they think it's a predator coming by, so they just fly out of the tank.
Oh, okay.
But if
Yeah,
they can,
the one that I lost, there was literally just a little gap, and he got out. I mean, because I've got 1/4 inch thick glass lids on there, and it's not the first time I've lost an arowana to jumping out of the tank either. I mean, we know that's a risk going into it when we get arowana. So now, this one you're not going to want to answer this question
uh,
because,
I'll answer. But can I say something to you before that?
of course,
You want to know what's the weirdest way that I've lost a fish before?
I'd love to.
I don't think you guys would guess this one out. I lost an arapaima because he couldn't breathe air. He drowned.
Because the water was too high in the tank. Oh man,
Yep.
that's
Uh,
brutal.
right when we moved here, I had him in the tubs in the back with the Kevin Stingrays, and I was filling it up, and I forgot one tub. I forgot the hose on. So we had lids. Unfortunately, the water level went past the lid, so there was no air. And because of
Oh,
now, try to explain that to someone. I lost a fish because he couldn't breathe air.
my fish drowned.
You know what I mean? Like they'll be like, "There's no way." No, it literally did happen.
Wow.
Me, that was like it was insane. I felt so bad, but I woke up at 3 in the morning, like jumping out of bed, like shit. And I come out here, this whole place is flooded. And
Oh,
the alligator gar, no, the alligator guy lived. It was the arapaima that passed away.
that's unfortunate. So I think I know. I have two answers for this question,
Okay.
but it's not about what my answers are. You're the guest. I want to get your answer on this, and let's pretend you're not in the fish business, okay? But you are a guy that is fluent in monster fish. You're an expert in monster fish. Is there a fish that just should not be in this hobby? And if it makes you feel better, I can give you my quick two answers
Mhm.
that might help, you know, break the ice. I'm going to say arapaima and I'm going to say sturgeon. Now, I love both of those fish. And like I said, when I win the lottery or when Elon Musk gives me half of his fortune, I'm going to build that dream tank I was talking about, and I'm going to get that arapaima. So I'm being a hypocrite, but I feel the reason why I feel the way I feel about arapaimas is because I went into a fish store one time that had a 150-gallon tank, and it must have had 75 of them in there, and they were all like 8 inches long. They were like $300 a piece. I went back to that store like a month later, and there was only 3 of them left in there, and none of them died. They were all sold to people, and that just kind of hurt my feelings. So that's why I know that the majority of people are not doing right by them. So those would be my two answers. And sturgeons, people just don't know how to take care of them. So that would be my two. But I'm
Okay.
not going to show up with any pickets in front of your business. It's not
No.
like that. But
All right. So you want my honest opinion? I feel like the fish that should not be in the hobby are fish that are in danger, right? They're in the wild. The population getting low, and we might not see them again. As far as size, honestly, to me, the size doesn't matter to certain people, but to majority, yes. Like we're talking about it before, like you got to be responsible for your own actions. Not everybody, maybe 20% of the entire U.S. can house an airplane. right? And it might take years. Like mine took 6, 7 years to get to that size. Some people are crazy, just like us, and they will do whatever it takes to take care of their animals. Some people don't care. But the people that don't care, no matter if it's a fish, a dog, or cat, they're gonna treat it the same way. So I don't think that. So to say it the right way, to some people, I agree those fish should not be available. But because of some people, I don't think that the people that can house these animals have to suffer and not be able to have them because of those people. Everybody should just do what the right thing. If we all did the right thing and we all had a brain, then there's no problems. You know what I mean? Like
That's a good answer.
I you can't. I really. It's not because I'm in the hobby and I think about money. No, shit. We keep majority of the fish that we bring in. If I could think about money, I would sell it. Like the white fly river turtle or the bat ray. You know how many people ask me to buy that bat ray? I don't care. I don't want to sell it. So it's not money. Money's not the problem. I just feel like everybody should be responsible for their own actions. Like if you don't have what it takes to take care of one of these animals, don't buy it. It's just as simple as that. But you can't have people out there like, oh, this is so wrong. These poor animals. I feel this way. Arapimas are being bred for food, right? So in one way or another, they're gonna turn out in a dinner plate. If someone can give them a good loving life for 2, 3, 4 years, what's wrong with that, right? If I have a son that fell in love with watching Jeremy Wade and he really wanted a red-tailed catfish in the pond, if he's healthy, he's doing well, why not? But don't buy it. Oh, I have a 55-gallon tank. Let me make my son happy. He's an Arapaima and a red tail. You got to know what you're doing.
Right.
So I feel like we would be very wrong, hypocritical, if we were selling all these animals and we didn't teach at all. We had no videos out there. We didn't tell people how big they got. That I understand. That I'm against. Because I do see a lot of stores that people come here and they're like, oh, I have a Paco. I had no idea how big it was going to get. How do you not have any idea? What did you buy? So that I do feel like is wrong. But if you know, and we're telling you, this animal can get to 7, 8 feet long in a matter of 6, 7 years, and you still want to buy it, and if you lie to us saying, oh, no, I'll take care of it. I'll have a pond, a poop pond in the future. How can we prevent that?
Right.
And other people might feel different about it. I just think that everyone should be responsible for their own actions. That's the way I see it.
I don't disagree.
The
So,
best
Jason,
thing to do, John, is you buy an Arapaima from us, right? And in 3, 4 years, you say, Rod, my wife left me, took everything.
hey.
That's an example. Knock on wood. Knock on wood. Just it does happen. I've had those calls before.
Don't give her any ideas, Rod. Come on now.
Well, different Lisa. My wife's name is Lisa too. And say, I had to change my plans. I won't have what it takes to take care of this animal. We'll take it back. I'm not leaving you stuck with it. I'm not leaving the animal to die. I'll figure it out. Bring it back here. We'll figure it out.
Nice.
So at least I do that. I had a guy that drove, true story, for my own life. He drove from Tennessee to here to drop off a Giardini.
Wow.
Because
he could have taken that anywhere.
He said he went to the local stores and they all had small tanks, and he didn't feel right. He had it for 5, 6 years, and he was like a family member to him, and he was moving, and where he moved, he couldn't put the big tank in. So he literally got his dad and mom in the car, drove from Tennessee to here, dropped off the fish, and went back.
Wow. Hey,
Now
good for him.
Now these are the people that I deal with. Like
Yeah.
I'm not dealing with like Petco. Oh, I don't know what this is. Let me just buy. Those type of people. I think the clientele that we focus on and mainly come to us are people that are a little bit more experienced in the hobby, and they're looking for certain fish.
Gotcha.
And then obviously you're gonna have that percentage that don't know what they're doing. They're just gonna go in there buy it just because they can. But I don't think that should be the store's fault, right? I think that if somebody buys a stingray and they're in Florida and they buy it on my website because they can, and we ship, okay, that's my fault because I knew the law and I shipped it.
Right.
So that 100% we're wrong. But if they're in states that are allowed and they buy it and I look at the state, oh no, you can have it. What else can I do? What am I going to call him and say, hey, do you have a proper setup for this? They're going to say, yeah. How prove it?
Right. Yeah.
You can just go to Google, take a picture of a tank, and send it. It's
I've
not going to change
always,
anything.
I never thought about it because I would love to do a stingray tank. North Carolina isn't on that list of not allowing stingrays, are they?
I don't know. I think Georgia is. I think North Carolina, you might be clean.
Okay, I don't care about Georgia.
You
I
might
just
be
want to
good.
make sure. No, good. So unless Jason has another question for you, I've got a really good one to wrap this one up. Are you good, Jason?
Yeah, bring it.
All right. You mentioned, and I'm not asking. You said you manufacture tanks, so you mentioned that. So, uh, let's say, let's not go just completely nuts. Ballpark, a 12 by 4 by 4
12
acrylic
by 4.
tank. What, just for the acrylic box? What would somebody be thinking about? A price range. What would something like that cost?
Just out of my head, like not counting freight or none of that stuff.
Yeah, just the box, and then we'll talk about, you know, whoever's going to
I
buy
would
this
think,
can talk about shipping later.
I would think 12 to 15,000.
That's not as crazy as I thought you were going to say.
No, but it also depends on who manufactures. So, for example, like the company that we're partnered up with, they build tanks all over the world for like aquariums. And this guy, he crafts his own acrylic. That's how like you put him and Kevin to talk, and you're sit there like this. It's two different.
His phone rang again.
Yeah, yeah. It's the office phone because my phone, my son took it.
Ah,
Um, so the he rather do a tank the sticker than one the thinner. So he always go over than under. You know what I mean? So for example, our 40-foot tank, the price difference to make it from 4 foot high to 5 feet high, of 1 foot extra, it was over 30,000.
oof. Wow.
And this is how Kevin and I work, right? Kevin is like, "Do you know what we can do with 30,000?" And I'm like, "But do you understand what a 5 foot tank would look like?"
That's a big difference.
So we went back and forth, and I said, "Look, we already have the Shark Tank that's 4 foot. This is our main display with the monster tank. If we have arapaima in that tank, 4 foot of water is nothing, you know." So we're going back and forth. Finally, he's like, "All right, let's do the 5 foot tank." So we went another 30 grand just to make it 5 feet.
Wow. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing that one, and I'm definitely looking forward to getting back up there and checking out your spot because I was fascinated by it, and it wasn't even done yet. So when it is done, which let's both be honest, it's never going to be totally done. We all know that, but
Yeah.
I'm definitely looking forward to coming up there and seeing that. And I really, really appreciate you spending some time talking about it. This has been a lot of fun. This is my wheelhouse. It's what I love the most is the big fish. Yeah, I love the small fish too, but the big ones are the ones that definitely get me going, and that's what got me into the hobby. So I appreciate you spending the time with us, and take a second, pimp your website out and tell everybody where they can find you, and then we'll let you off for the rest of the day.
Well, sounds like we were a wife. I'll let you off. I'll take care of the kids. You go. No, thank you for having us. I think it's good we get to say, our side, right?
Right.
People can go and write reviews, and we can't write reviews on customers. I wish we could. Are you crazy? I would love to do that. You probably wouldn't be the best reviews out there, but it would be nice to be able to say what we feel, right? Everybody else can do it. The good thing that we have in our favor that a lot of stores don't is social media. So through social media, we get to share our site as well. And I think that's why we have so much love and support, because people see that these guys are not all about money. They actually care about the animal. They care about what they're building, right? Why we would spend so much money building an exhibit to display this animal? We could just sell them, make more money,
Right.
you know? It's I think that's another important thing when you partner up with someone, partner up with the same goals that you have. Kevin and I have, we're very different. That guy never stepped a day in the gym. I haven't been off the gym for the past 20 years. So we're very different, but very similar when it comes to the hobby, you know? And And I just thank you for the opportunity. I think when you guys do the episode on stingrays, you're gonna learn a lot from him, because he dealt with Richard Ross. I don't know if you knew who that was.
Mm-hmm.
He unfortunately passed recently, and he knows everything about stingrays. Kevin is to the point where when I was at his facility, like he would look at a stingray and be like, in 2 days that stingray is gonna pass.
Oh no!
He knew everything. Like
wow.
I'm sitting here like, no, let's save it. It's like there's nothing you can do, you know.
Wow.
So he's been around enough to know. So I think you're gonna have a good episode there. As far as for people that don't know who we are, if you can find us on predatoryfins.com or our YouTube channel, Predatory Fins, any social media platform, we're there with the same name.
Yep, he's not hard to find. He's not hiding from anybody, and he is the authority on these big old fish. So definitely check that out. Thank you so much again, Rod, and thank you, Jason, for hanging in there and letting me do all the talking. I appreciate everybody watching this episode, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, guys.